night. Still cold here this morning, but by afternoon our world will be warming. Or a city by the ocean where I've never seen it snow, but wouldn't dream of leaving no place I'd rather go. No place I'd
Hi there, this is Ibrahim. Thank you for tuning in. This is part 5 of how to build a website from scratch. You might be wondering why I'm here, but anyway, I'll get back to that later. So in the previous episodes, we learned how to build things entirely from scratch. We started with a plain HTML, and we also started using PHP, and we saw that quickly it became very hard to maintain. And I created a little bit of PHP with spaghetti code, and it just made no sense at all. So now we're gonna be using that framework we talked about, and finally we're gonna make something amazing. All right, so let's get started. Okay, we're here on my Linux machine, my Ubuntu, and we're gonna be starting a project from scratch. So we're gonna put our other part of the code separately and get started here. So as you can see, I always like to have a web folder where I put my front-facing section of my application. It's gonna have all the HTML. And since we're building a framework, what I want to do is create a single file, my index.php, and every single request will go to that file, except if it's an asset, like if we have images or something like that we're serving. Anything else goes through index.php, no matter what it is. And from there, this is going to make it very flexible. So any request that comes, we redirect it back to our application. So this way we can we have much more control. So one little thing I like to do when I get started is just to make sure that all the errors are displayed. Right now, as you can see, I'm making sure errors are displayed and reported. That way we can see problems right away from the beginning. And also, one thing I like to do is to create a structure before I have the code. Like I might call a function that doesn't exist. For example, new application class doesn't exist yet, and I'm even using a namespace, app, and then application. This is just as a preparation. I don't even have those. So next thing we're going to be doing is create those files. So I have the app folder, and I created application.php, and here I'm going to create that class. This is the class that's going to handle our whole application. I gave you a preview on part 4, and today we're gonna actually write it. So as soon as our application start, is gonna call application.php, and here I'm going to, before we actually have the whole code, I'm just gonna write the name of the functions and classes that are going to do everything. So for example, since we're gonna start with a router, I'm gonna say, okay, get the router, and give that router to the controller to initialize, and then this controller should render the page. Oh, is that what I wrote? Yes, render. And also send the headers. Make sure that if it's a head request, to only send the head, not print the content. I recently started doing that because I see a lot of head requests in my Apache log, so I started giving back just the head, so that way websites I don't have to serve the whole content. Anyway, that's this few lines of code. That's it. That's all our application. And now all we have to do is go out there and develop each one of them. We're gonna start with the router. I'm gonna use a folder structure. All my stuff are gonna go under the plugin menu. I mean, I don't know if it's the best name for it, but it's just gonna allow me to organize them, because that's what a framework is. It's just organizing. So the first thing I did here is to create like a class to handle exceptions. It's not gonna be like your traditional one that extends the exception class and do all that. I just want to make something very simple. All I care about is that I can throw 404s or 500s, and out here so that way if I have an error somewhere, I can just throw this error is gonna print an error or save it to the database or do whatever I have to do, and yeah, that's all I have to do basically. I mean, I know some people will say that there's better ways to create an error handler, but this will do for now. Like, it's just the base structure. We can, as our application grow, we can update it and make it a whole lot better. But for now, this will do. That's the thing. We're not gonna have a fully functional framework in a couple of strokes, like just right here and there, and that's it. We have it. For example, the framework I've been using for my website, if I count the time I started building it, it took a total of, like, so far it's been what, 6 years? 5 to 6 years. And yeah, because it just keeps growing. Like, every time I think of a new thing that will be a great addition, and I add it, and it makes my life easier. Anyway, so this is the first file I include inside my index.php. Just initialize. I make sure because that was a problem I used to have with Unicode characters. It never displayed correctly, so I add these few lines of code that make sure I'm always using, UTF-8 for character encoding. And also, there's one thing that I used to hate about PHP, that is to include files. Like, which file do you include for each request? Like, I used to have like almost like a few hundred files for my database for each class and all that, and used to include every single one of them. But now there's this new, it's not new, but it's a cool trick you can use when you call a class that is not defined. PHP can grab its name, read it, and then include the right files. So here I'm creating a structure of where each class is going to be located. I'm going to be using namespace and use some sort of code to identify which class is where. Even that might evolve in the future, but for now, this should do. I'm just going to have like a root, app directory, plugins, and then source. Source is where developers go and write their own code, basically. So yeah, anytime we call a class that is not defined, this is going to be called. We're gonna call autoloader with the function load, which will parse the name of the class. And since it's gonna have a namespace, so for example, autoloader here will be called app / autoloader. Yeah. And here I'm just gonna create a few quick rules on how to load them. If like using the structure I have ahead on top. If it's roots, load the .. /. If it's app, use lowercase app. If it's plugin, and so on. Yeah. This will prove very useful. So this way, like, if I don't use some files in a particular page, I don't have to include them. I only include the features that I'm currently using. Anything else is not there. So that's why you'll notice that this framework is gonna be exceptionally fast. It's gonna be great. I know, boasting and all that. But anyway, I'm telling you the truth. It's gonna be great if we get to our goal, if we manage to do something. Anyway, as you can see, as I'm writing, I'm not really testing. I'm not opening it in the command line or on the browser. I'm not even testing this code, because so far I'm just roughly writing what is going to happen. But it eventually, like, the more code you write, the more errors you're gonna do it. There's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way it is. Here I'm removing our old blog, just changing that symlink. Since all the server is already set up, I'm gonna change scratch blog that we had before to point to this new application. And once I do that, all I have to do is open it on the browser, and it should test it. And since I wrote those little like that error handler, it's gonna show me the errors that are happening live, basically. So I wrote that, and unfortunately I made a little mistake somewhere. I'm gonna show you later. I made a little mistake, and my application just stopped working, and I have to figure out what is happening. Okay. Here I'm just giving a little bit details in my errors. So basically, I have some errors. For example, I wrote 3 years ago, and I don't even remember how it works. But because I wrote a good description, right when this error starts, I know exactly where to look. And I'm gonna make this class a little more robust in the future. Don't worry about it. Today is just the beginning. It's just the basic structure. And at the same time, we're gonna keep our code light. This way, we always our application will always be fast. As you can see here, I made like it's telling me that some class is not working, and yeah, and I'm trying to figure things out. Yeah, the problem is I have initialized that app that's showing up somewhere, and I made that mistake in a previous file. I think it's inside initialize.php, but I didn't think to look at it right away. You see, I'm struggling. But anyway, I'm gonna figure it out. Come on, man. This is my debugging, my way of debugging. I just add echoes on places and exit, make sure that the values that I'm expecting are exactly what they are, but sometimes they're not. So it's a good way to test it. Once I get back to initialize.php, okay, actually here I wrote an echo and automatically I knew what was happening. So yeah, I forgot to put the parentheses here, and that was it really. Yep, relative path. That was the problem. Good. Now that I have that, I can continue with the application. Removing all my debugging code. Good. So we have our error talking now, telling us that the router is not defined. That's perfect. So it means we can go back to our application and start defining router. The router is not very complicated. I mean, it's not complicated. It looks complicated in the beginning, but once you get a good hang of it, it's not complicated. Actually, it's complicated because I wrote a router before in PHP and I have no idea what it was supposed to do. And I tried to read it and it was very confusing. But recently I also wrote a router on my blog for Node.js, and I published that. So I had to go back to that particular article in JavaScript to figure out how a router works. I wrote it, but I just forgot how it works. And yeah, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be converting my JavaScript into PHP here. There might be some subtle differences, but anyway, we're gonna see that once we get there. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to, all my application will use a single router. So I'm gonna make sure I only use one. It's gonna be initialized only once. And after that, we just reuse it. We don't need to rebuild it all the time. Like here, I'm just setting the default values, making sure anything is initialized properly. Even here, I have like a class like settings that is not defined yet, but in the future, we'll get there. We'll get there. We will define settings. That's the thing. Building a framework is good to have actually a picture, or like you have a white paper where you draw the structure of your program, which place goes where. I've been working on this framework for a while, so it does make sense in my head. So yeah, you'll have to forgive me that I didn't have a fully planned structure on paper. I just started coding because I know exactly which part I'm supposed to do first and second and so on. And it's okay to have errors. Actually, in this case, errors are not errors. They're feedback. It's just to tell us which part is ready, which part is not ready. And that's what I'm doing really. I'm just writing code and then I refresh the browser because it's gonna call call my application, and I'll see exactly where it stopped and what I need to do next. And so far I'm just displaying more errors. Any place where I see there's something might go wrong, I throw my own errors. This is a good way of looking at your application. Don't let the application throw errors on its own. If you can throw it on your own, then you know exactly what went wrong and you can write a description. So a year from now, when you revisit your this application, you know what went wrong, what's the problem. I mean, I wrote some amazing things in the past. I can't believe I even wrote it, because today when on my blog I get some errors, I get so much details, exactly which line, what went wrong, what I forgot to include, and this and that. And I'm like, wow, okay, thank God I did that 3-4 years ago, because today I would have been completely confused if I just got that error. I'd have to go through a whole debugging process. Yeah. But anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'll show you how to make some very detailed errors that can be helpful to you. As you can see here, I'm calling functions that are not even defined yet, and I don't care. That's how I want them to look. That's how I want my code to look. So first I write what the code is supposed to do. Then after that, I actually write how it's supposed to do it. So the what first and then the how next. As you can see, the code it keeps on growing. And don't worry if it's hard to follow along. I know the video is accelerated, but I'm gonna make the code available. That way you can follow with me and just see how a framework is built live. You can test the code yourself and see it. Maybe you'll find some mistakes I make, because nobody's perfect. It's almost impossible to write something entirely without making mistakes. You'll probably you'll see sometimes I won't be publishing the videos right away because I'm stuck somewhere. I might have a bug or something like that, and it happens, and it can be really annoying. But anyway, we do it anyway. Like seeing those parts like that, they don't make sense. But the reason you see me, I'm kind of writing fast, is because I have an idea what I'm building, what sections are going to be in this code. Like get path, get apps path. It's because we're gonna have a folder called source, src, and that folder is going to have all our code. It's gonna have like our main application, which we'll call blog, and that blog will have, let's say, a main section and then an admin section, for example. And each of those can have different things. Like the admin will call its own functions and the main part will call its own function. Yeah, anyway, that's it for now. I'm gonna make sure, I mean, I don't want these videos to be too long, otherwise it'll be very confusing. But I'll keep coding live so you can watch and see exactly how a framework is built from scratch, and I'll make the code available. That way you can go in and just modify the parts you want to modify or something like that. All right, and we're back. Okay, so today the reason I'm reporting out here is to be in a different scene. It's very easy to work on a program and just keep coding night and day and stay in your basement in front of your machine all night, and it becomes exhausting really fast. And it's easy to also pretend like imagine that you are actually being productive, but if you take some time off and when you come back you are just more productive. So that's why I'm here today. I'm just being outside. This is my hiking trail in Palisades, and yeah, it changed my ideas. I just come here every once in a while and forget about programming. So yeah, just take some time off. So this is part 5. We've done a lot already. If you're just getting started in programming, this is a lot. So I suggest you take some time off and go enjoy the weather outside and then come back. Alright, this is it for today. Thank you for watching. Hopefully next time we will continue on building this framework and create something amazing together. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to get more videos like these ones, and also leave a thumbs up if you like it. This helps me expose this video to more people, help me get more findable. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you, and you will see me next time.
I'm watching the sunrise with you. Not a cloud in the sky. Still cold here this morning.